Hey, good evening, everyone. How you doing? Man, it's too hot. I hope you enjoyed that little countdown. That was kind of fun. Anyway, man, I tell you, it's been a chore to get out in the morning and do gardening, check on bees, uh, all kinds of stuff. We got several kinds of bees going on now. We've got some, our normal honeybees. We got several hives back there, and we also started some mason bees this year. And I was happy to see that several of the cavities that we have in our mason bee houses actually have some occupants. So I've got some things to learn still about keeping mason bees, but it's going to be fun to learn. Oh man, we got a few things to share with you tonight, and we'll get to those in just a minute. Just see if we get any more people kind of showing up. I know it's kind of a little late notice to get some things going. I was trying to share some info with the team across town. We're in Dallas, and the people over in Fort Worth. I don't think they had a chance to necessarily see that we were going to be doing this tonight, but it's all good. Oh, hopefully you guys are all surviving the summer. It's been crazy here. I don't know where you guys are at, but in Dallas, Fort Worth, this has been pretty record setting for July. We've had, let's see, in July, we had every day was 100 plus, except for 4, I think. And of course, 2 of those were July 1st and 2nd, and they were still in the 90s. I think we had 2 days in mid-July where it was in the mid and upper 90s, and the rest of it was 100 plus. And I don't recall seeing this hot this early in the year. We get hot in August, so that's expected. But man, I'm ready for fall already. And so, oh gosh. Well, hopefully I can see there's a couple of people on. This is our first time ever trying to do a live stream. We're doing some testing of some software with StreamYard. We'll see how that works. And if this presentation goes well, we'll probably keep at it for a little while, and we'll see what we end up with. We got some beekeeping tips tonight we're going to share for August, probably relate to late July, early August, and mid-August, things that you should be looking at with your bees, things that you might want to be looking out for yourself. And then we got a few gardening things. We're going to have what I call my plant spotlight. We're going to share some plants that are good for August, some things that provide some resources for bees, and are just nice to have in the garden, let alone for the bees, but just things that are nice. One of the things, our spotlight, I'll share, I'm making some other product with it. So and a little teaser there. But well, anyway, let's get started. Not a whole lot to go here. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people. If you get a chance, drop a comment and say hello, just so I know you guys are there. Let me share the little presentation I put together, and hopefully it'll come across for you guys. I think I'm looking at two screens, so I think it's coming across okay. But here we are, August, and let's see what we got. Just want to say hello. By the way, I've been a little behind schedule this year with my bees and my garden. If you don't know me personally or hang with us, we were gone for almost a month, three plus weeks. We took a trip to Italy, and I was going to share that. I didn't bring it over, but while I was there, we got to visit a medieval castle where they made their own wine and had some huge grape vineyards. Somehow they had an olive orchard. But the other thing they did was bees. They had some bees and did some beekeeping there as well. And I was able to bring home some honey from the medieval castle. It's mostly wildflower. And then there's a second one that I got that was saffron honey. So I'm looking forward to trying those out. And if you're local, I'm planning to do if I can work it out, a honey tasting here at our place. See if we can get some pop-ups. Waiting for the weather to break. It's too hot to try and go out there and do anything. But then we'll go out to the garden. We'll do some honey tasting, and I don't know. I might even have some mead that we'll be able to share. We'll see, depending on who shows up. And that should be a good time. I think I'm trying to look at late September probably to do that here in the garden. And we're gonna have to wait and see how the weather goes. Just can't say for sure. Tonight, we're going to cover some beekeeping tips, pollinator plants for August. Like I said, the plant spotlight and a couple of garden tips. The beekeeping tips for August. Man, I still can't believe it's August. This year's going by pretty fast. So the bees, the colonies should be starting to diminish in numbers. The number of bees that are in each of the hives are probably starting to go down. We're past the solstice, and the days are actually getting shorter, although it feels just as hot as it did yesterday and a week ago and almost a month ago now, I guess. Honey flow is definitely coming to an end. If it's probably been in, we're probably in a dearth in the DFW area, and have been probably for most of July at this point. The heat is really taking a toll on the plants, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in just a second or two. Bees are going through a ton of water. I've got a couple of waterers out. I've got a rain barrel that's normally when we get rain has over 300 gallons of water, and it's sprung a leak. So it's doing a slow drip release of, let me turn my phone off here. That's YouTube wanting to talk to me. That is really. They're a little late for tonight. But a slow drip release on that water, that rain barrel, and the bees are taking to that water like it's nothing else. I also have about a 20-gallon bee waterer that I swear I can watch it go down. There's so many bees and moths and wasps, pollinators all over the place flock to that bee waterer. And I made a video on how to make that, the large bee waterer for pollinators. It's got pool noodles that we cut into slices and set on the surface, and a floating solar fountain that keeps the water moving so that we don't get too many mosquitoes in there. And I do put mosquito dunks into it once in a while because it's they will still move in, and mosquito dunks will not hurt bees. So definitely worker bees are foraging for a lot of water here. No doubt about it. Swarming is greatly reduced, not zero. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I know there's probably much more robbing that's happening right now for sure. I did a video on that too. I said one of my hives was getting robbed out a week or two ago, and I shot a video just so people could see what the robbing actually looks like versus orientation flights. We see that question a lot, and I know if you're beekeepers, you know that that question comes up: is my hive getting robbed? And most of the time, it's orientation flights for new bees that are exiting their hive and coming out and flying in front of the hive entrance and getting their orientation. Robbing is a lot different, and we got that video out there to show what it looks like. So anyway, swarming greatly reduced. If we do see swarms, mostly I've seen a few reports lately. I think some of the reports that I'm seeing are mostly people that are finding the bees that swarmed earlier, or it could be I don't want to say Africanized, but the hotter Africanized bees tend to swarm in smaller numbers and a little more often, I believe. And I've seen some small swarms, so I would put a question mark in my head if I were to try and get that swarm. So those are kind of the big things. make sure you have some things to take care of robbing if you do run across that in your hives. Some things like a robbing screen, entrance reducer. Um, I put a sprinkler on to help reduce the flying when mine was getting robbed. Close off upper entrances, all kinds of stuff like that. There are several things that you can do to help in that situation. From the beekeeper side, we talked about water, especially this year. Water is big. Make sure your bees have a water source. Make sure that water source doesn't go dry. If it goes dry, they'll probably go find a neighbor's pool or some other source, and may not come back to your water source even if you refill it. It's one of those things, you put a water source out for them, make sure it stays full, or at least has water in it. You probably want to get into your hives and check them for resources. Make sure the bees have food. Make sure they have some type of carbohydrates and protein. The pollen is about dry. Nectar sources are hard to come by. Probably need to start thinking about feeding your hives if you haven't already. So it's one of those things just to get in there and check and see what's going on. Let's see what else we have. Varroa mites. Yes, as the bees are decreasing, the mite levels are probably increasing, or at least there are probably more mites in your hive when compared to the number of bees since they're decreasing. It would be a good idea to do a mite check. I know a lot of people don't do mite checks and don't treat their bees, but it's a good idea, even if you don't treat bees, to have an idea of what your mite load is. If you harvested honey and you have empty honey stores or supers, it's probably a good time to start thinking about taking them off. Use moth crystals, not moth balls. Big difference, to prevent wax moth damage. And one thing that is really, we don't talk too much about is equalizing or combining your weaker hives. If you have a really strong hive, you can take a weak hive and add some bees from one of your stronger hives to it. Mostly you're looking for nurse bees, you don't want to get your worker bees, you don't want to move your queen, but it's a good opportunity to look at equalizing your colonies. And if you collected honey, and I know a couple of my friends, they got some really good honey this year. They got early in the year, and it's not so much now, but I know some people got a couple hundred to several hundred pounds of honey this year. So those that got honey and were in the right places, they got quite a bit. So continue to sell it. And if you have extra, I'll always take some. Or if you want to come by and do our honey tasting with us, send me a note to john@twodoves.com. And when we do that, I'll make sure you get an invite. One of the things that we also that I mentioned earlier, this hot summer, get back here, this hot summer is really taking a toll on the pollen and nectar for plants and flowers. Definitely want to check your hives, make sure they've got what they need. I know I saw earlier today, Texas Bee Supply sent out a note about a study that I think Randy Oliver was doing about adding, now is the time to add pollen patties. And I didn't get a chance to read it because it came in just this evening. But if you haven't seen that and you get to Texas Bee Supply, they might have it online. But there was a specific formula, a specific type of pollen patty to add. There's some research going on about the different pollen patties. So anyway, something to think of and look at. Heat of the day, bearding. Are your hives bearding? I know mine are. One thing I will say is I last year put in an insulated inner cover and the ultimate hive cover on several of my hives. And those hives that have the insulated inner cover and the ultimate hive cover are doing much, much better They don't beard nearly as much. I think it provides a lot of insulation to keep the sun off the top of the hives, and it ventilates. So it's got a lot of ventilation and letting that heat escape. So that's another thing I don't have on here, but it's something to look at. Be Smart Designs, they have some good stuff. Pollinator plants, just talking about that real quick. I did see Jody, thanks for your comment. Does he offer beekeeping lessons in the fall from England? I don't. We do beekeeping lessons here, and we do some things that are online. So if you take a look at our YouTube channel, there's one conference that we did last year that had a lot of good information on there. It was all specifically for new beekeepers, novice beekeepers. And if you send me a note, I'll see if I can look that up and send it over to you. John@twodoves.com. Pollinator plants for August. These are several that we have seen and done some presentations on in previous years. Obviously with the garden, melons, lavender, cucumber, okra, mint, celosia. My coneflowers, echinacea, are still doing quite well. Most of these typically do well in our hot August weather. So any of these will be really good. Crepe myrtles. I've seen my bees on crepe myrtles. I've got right outside my window about 8 crepe myrtles that are probably 50 years old. They're really big. And there's whites and pinks and purples. And they tend to go to the purple and the white and not so much the pinks. And I don't know if it's just a different variety or what it is specific, but I know some of the crepe myrtles produce a false pollen and the bees don't really go to it. So it is interesting. Not all crepe myrtles are created equal. Let's see. I don't know how I got extra highlights in there, but I'll try and read through this. Our pollinator spotlight plant is spearmint, and I told you I was making some things with that. I'm harvested a bunch of my own spearmint this year, and that's going to be for my winter drink. I like mint tea, and so I'm going to make my own mint tea, and looking forward to trying that. But the mint is pollinators are all over it every morning. I mean, bees, just native bees, all kinds of stuff. In fact, just this one little note, and it's hard to read here. Let me see if I can't even highlight it the way it's done. But there was a place where they had a commercial operation for mint, and bees that were near them, they were measuring how much honey they got from the mint, and it produced a surplus of honey of over 200 pounds per hive. That's incredible. I know in our area, super typically is somewhere between 30 and 50 pounds. And if they can get 200 pounds per hive, that's pretty insane. Let me show you this. I made this one video. Let me show it to you real quick. I'll take. So I won't keep playing this, but it was pretty cool just to go out there. Very peaceful. It was still quite pleasant out in the garden. It wasn't very hot, so it was. I just have to take a minute or two to just enjoy the peace of the garden, and got to capture some of the bees on the mint plants. For the garden, basically, we're expanding our garden. This hot weather is kind of a mixed blessing. It has allowed us to do some what we call solarization, where we put clear tarps out on the ground where we want to do a new garden bed, and we can solarize the Bermuda grass and the field weeds that are there, and allows us to prepare that space for building a new garden spot in the fall. It's too hot out there to go out and build right now, but it's preparing the ground for it, so we can go out there, rake the dead stuff out of it, and start building pretty quickly when the weather breaks. And now it's a good time to plant annuals, marigolds, ornamental peppers. We can start planting our seasonal cool weather vegetables, probably by seed right now inside. It's too hot, you can't put them outside. You can start planting your fall vegetables, but if you do, like cucumbers, beans, etc., you probably want to protect them probably with a shade cloth, at least in Dallas-Fort Worth right now, for until this really hot weather breaks. If you have hot weather where you're at, definitely consider putting some shade cloth on them. Probably somewhere 40% shade cloth would do really well. Now you can throw some wildflower seeds out there, and some rhizomes for irises. I made some other notes too. If you have a garden bed, you can start throwing some fertilizer in there, start preparing it for your fall gardening. If you do fall garden, check all your hoses and irrigation. I know this weather here where we have, I've got a Sun Joe hose, and luckily I bought a warranty on it because I've been through, I think, 6 of the hoses. They keep breaking because the weather is so hot. The inner tube inside of the carbon fiber outside is just rupturing, and I'm not even going to call it in until the weather breaks again. I've been through, I think I'm on my 6th one. That's since January of this year. So crazy. What else? Black-eyed peas is a good thing to plant. Bush beans, these are all great for pollinators. Okra, cucumbers, pole beans, pumpkins, squash, etc., etc. Zinnias, you can still plant zinnias and get flowers before our time is up with them. And of course, sunflowers. And that's pretty much it. I mean, not a whole lot, to go over. I just wanted to share some info with you. I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any questions, or if you want to just chat. It's I'm here for a while. I've got plenty of time, and it's we're looking forward to a little break. I know, Jody, if you're still here, what's the weather like over there? It's in England. I know I've heard, I work for British Telecom, so I've heard that they've had some hot weather over there as well. So it's been an interesting year, that's for sure. We're looking forward to fall, and I've got some watermelons that I haven't harvested yet. We've got okra that's still coming in. The bees, I need to get with a couple of people to look at learning more about mason bees. I'm actually going to start building a few mason bee houses with some extra equipment that I have. I have a couple of old bee boxes, honeybee boxes, that I can't use for honeybees anymore, but I can convert them into mason bee houses. So I'm going to play with that probably over the winter and see how that works out. I'm looking forward to kind of doing that. I like to get my hands into projects like that. And it's been something that's been on my radar. So that's really all I've got for tonight. And unless anyone has a quick question or something, I appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with us for sure. I'll take that off. You can see I've got some other honey up here. I've got some Manuka. I've got a couple of my own honey that I saved since 2020, I believe. We harvested before COVID. And so I've got a couple of jars of honey back there on the shelf behind me. This little thing here I picked up in Italy. This little Italian coaster type thing, and that was kind of fun. I found that in let's see, it was not Cortona, Perugia. That's where we were, Perugia, and there was a dungeon up there, and I found that little place in the dungeon in for a beekeeper in Perugia. So it was kind of fun. So that was pretty much all we had for tonight. So I'm not seeing any other comments, and we'll plan on doing this again next month. We'll do a September one, and hopefully I'll have more details on doing a honey tasting. And if we get a chance, maybe we'll do some recording of that too. So anyway, I guess that's where we will end for tonight. And I appreciate you hanging out, and look forward to talking to you all again sometime soon. And thanks. We'll catch you again.